minor flooding is forecast. Where? The Klamath River below Macoupin Dam. When? From early this morning to early Wednesday afternoon. Impacts at 5.5 feet. Road closures begin in both Butler and Bloomingdale due to flooding. At 6.5 feet, both main streets in Butler and Bloomingdale flood. Several commercial properties are also flooded. The Hamburg Turnpike experiences significant flooding. Flooding expands to the east side of Bloomingdale. Sloan Park is flooded. Additional details, at 4:25 a.m. Monday the stage was 5.7 feet. Recent activity, the maximum river stage in the 24 hours ending at 4:25 a.m. Monday was 5.7 feet. Forecast, the river will fall below flood stage early this morning to 5.3 feet and then begin rising this morning. It will then rise above flood stage late this morning to 6.1 feet tomorrow morning. It will fall below flood stage again Wednesday morning. Flood stage is 5.5 feet. Flood history. This crest compares to the previous crest of 6.1 feet on April 3rd, 2005. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. Afternoon until further notice. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. This approaches the flood record. Where? Passaic River above Seagac. When? From this afternoon until further notice. Impacts at 8.5 feet. Portions of the Wayne Town Center parking lot begin to flood. Hobson Avenue and Riverlong Drive and Wayne begin to flood. Fairfield Road, Fayette Avenue, and Riverset Road in Wayne can flood as water backs up the Pupton River. Lincoln Boulevard in Lincoln Park can also flood due to backwater up the Pupton River. The Pequannock River Park also floods. At 9.0 feet, Two Bridges Road in Fairfield is subject to closures. At 9.5 feet, Camp Lane and Marginal Road in Fairfield begins to flood. At 10.0 feet, Two Bridges Road in Fairfield begins to flood. Finns Drive, Fiesta Drive, and Market Street in Wayne are all susceptible to flooding. Williams Street, Lewis Street, and Zelliff Avenue in Little Falls can begin to flood. Portions of Lincoln Park become impassable. The Meadows Golf Club in Lincoln Park floods. At 11.0 feet, Little Falls Road in Fairfield floods. Flooding increases across the Seagac section of Little Falls. Additional details, at 3:45 a.m. Monday the stage was 6.8 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage late this afternoon and continue. In effect from this afternoon to Wednesday evening. What? Minor flooding is forecast. Where? Rockaway River at Boonton below RESVR. When? From this afternoon to Wednesday evening. Impacts at 6.0 feet. Flooding occurs on Vale Road in Oakville. The road heading into Parsippany is subject to closures. Additional details, at 6 a.m. Monday the stage was 4.2 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage this afternoon to a crest of 6.5 feet just after midnight tonight. It will then fall below flood stage early Wednesday afternoon. Flood stage is 5.0 feet. Flood history, this crest compares to the previous crest of 6.6 feet on August 14, 2000. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. In effect from this morning further notice. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. Where? Passaic River at Pine Brook. When, from this morning until further notice. Impacts at 21.0 feet. Widespread flooding in Fairfield, including Bloomfield Avenue. Residences between Route 80 and Route 46 flood. Route 46 East and Wayne is shut down. Commercial properties on Bloomfield Avenue in West Caldwell are flooded. Additional details, at 6:15 a.m. Monday the stage was 18.4 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage late this morning and continue rising to 20.9 feet tomorrow morning. Additional rises are possible thereafter. Flood stage is 19.0 feet. Flood history. This crest compares to the previous crest of 20.9 feet on June 1st, 1984. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. In effect from this morning to tomorrow morning. What? Minor flooding is forecast. Where? Raritan River at Manville. When? From this morning to tomorrow morning. Impacts at 11.0 feet. At this level, inundation begins in Dukes Park in Manville. At 12.0 feet, cautionary action stage is reached. Roads and trail flood within Dukes Park. At 13.0 feet, Southside Avenue in Somerville floods. At 15.0 feet, Dukes Parkway begins to flood in Hillsborough. At 16.0 feet, Lincoln Avenue in the Lost Valley section of Manville floods. At 17.0 feet, street and roadway flooding increases across the Manville area. The Van Vetten Bridge and Main Street in Manville are flooded, as well as 5th Street in Somerville. The amount of flooding can vary from event to event and can be affected by the amount of water in the millstone. Additional details, at 6:15 a.m. Monday the stage was 11.0 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage late this morning to a crest of 16.8 feet this evening. It will then fall below flood stage just after midnight tonight. Flood stage is 14.0 feet. Flood history, this crest compares to the previous crest of 16.8 feet on May 30th, 1984. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. In effect from this afternoon to late tomorrow morning. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. Where? Raritan River at Bound Brook. When? From this afternoon to late tomorrow morning. Impacts at 28.0 feet. Backyard and low areas are protected by levees and the flood wall. Without the levees, or if there is a breach in the levees, minor flooding will occur. At 30.0 feet, Main Street is protected by flat valve sluice gates. This level triggers the gate closures to protect Main Street. Additional details, at 6:15 a.m. Monday the stage was 25.8 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage this afternoon to a crest of 30.5 feet this evening. It will then fall below flood stage late tonight. Flood stage is 28.0 feet. Flood history, this crest compares to the previous crest of 30.5 feet on August 24, 2021. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. In effect until just after midnight tonight. What? Minor flooding is forecast. Where? North Branch Raritan River at Raritan. When? Until just after midnight tonight. Impacts at 7.0 feet. Minor flooding begins upstream on Black River Road. At 10.0 feet, flooding occurs along Old York Road and in North Branch Village. Additional details, at 6:30 a.m. Monday the stage was 9.4 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage this morning to a crest of 11.7 feet this afternoon. It will then fall below flood stage this evening. Flood stage is 10.0 feet. Flood history. This crest compares to the previous crest of 11.7 feet on February 3, 1982. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. In effect from this morning to early Wednesday morning. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. Where? Millstone River at Blackwell's Mills. When? From this morning to early Wednesday morning. Impacts at 6.0 feet. The Greekstown Causeway is closed due to flooding. At 7.0 feet, several more causeways are closed due to flooding. At 9.0 feet, flood stage reached with flooding now along River Road in Blackwell's Mills and south. River Street in Millstone. Base of Route 533 bridge floods. River Road between Yorktown and Amsterdam is subject to closure. Canal Road near Sidham Road floods. At 10.0 feet, the DNR Canal is flooded by the Millstone River. Additional details, at 6:30 a.m. Monday the stage was 7.0 feet. Forecast, the river is expected to rise above flood stage late this morning to a crest of 11.6 feet just after midnight tonight. It will then fall below flood stage late tomorrow evening. Flood stage is 9.0 feet. Flood history. This crest compares to the previous crest of 11.4 feet on April 3, 2005. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. Flood warning in effect from this afternoon until further notice.